Hey all. So this is War 5 of Season 34, and it's a big one. I don't intentionally assign myself a lot of fights. I enjoy taking multiple fights in War. I enjoy taking cool ones, but it's just not something that has mattered strongly to me in a while. But this season, I have, like I've said before, 9 Defiance champs at rank 3 or higher, including rank 4 Reed. I have the only SIG 200 Captain America. I have one of only a few Nimrods, especially at high SIG. And so this just keeps working out. So I've been talking over this first fight. You've seen me take Tigra with Reed before. There is almost nothing to this particular node. I'm trying to play around the Deja Vu Prowess that makes her specials more dangerous just in case I mess up the evades, but I also don't expect to. I'm very comfortable with that matchup. Additionally, there is spiked armor. Reed crits a moderate amount, but at the end of the day, that node only does 6% of attack back. It's such a small amount of damage. You can and kind of should ignore it. I think that that's probably something that will get buffed heading into next season, because as it is, it's just not a factor. Anyway, moving on to Mysterio here. As I've said before, Reed was my overall favorite for this particular matchup even before Defiance was a thing, because on top of other characters who can control the power gain from the node itself, from Power Snack and Backup Recovery, Reed also reduces combat power rate, and therefore you have to deal with fewer of Mysterio's specials in the first place. And I very much like that. So, go ahead, run into this. Not running power packs, not running power start, because you just don't need to. I would recommend that you do if you're starting off this fight and learning it, but it's just not something that I'm concerned with. We can wait out the special one reflection gas. Even if this was a max Sig Mysterio and he threw it with 3 gas, we would probably have time to wait out the whole thing and then land a heavy, but you can also just go ahead and land a heavy into the reflection gas if you need to reset it, because maintaining your debuffs is going to help you more in the long run than completely unramping and allowing him to throw 3 or 4 times as many specials because you lost your suppressions. And that's exactly what you see there. I could have played that a little bit better, probably could have waited it out and landed the heavy, but the timing was just starting to feel a little bit weird to me, and so I was like, alright, just go ahead, lock it in, it's worth it, you can heal up. And so through the heavy, took some damage back. If you don't do that, Mysterio's native block penetration means you're probably finishing this around 90%. You do it once or twice, take a little bit more, depending on if you crit or not, but really, not the end of the world. And so then we have this Korg here on Mixmaster. A lot of great options for this. We've sent Omega Red many times in the past, but I don't think we actually sent Omega at all this war. It just wasn't quite lining up. And I had a spot on my team, and House of X can handle this. So I probably should have spent a little bit more time really delving into light, medium combos for this, because that is, at the end of the day, the most efficient way to get through this. You can keep Prowess basically entirely under control that way. You will see me shift over a little bit as the fight goes on into light, medium, and I had practiced it, but it just, especially because I went directly from the last fight into this one, it clearly was not at the forefront of my mind, and so the more advanced combo just wasn't coming to me, and so I kind of abandoned it. Because at the end of the day, this is my only House of X fight. It is pre-fight neutral because we used one of them, but we're going to get those 2 charges back. There's just not a lot of danger here. I can block like 10 or 20 Prowess boosted special ones, and I'm just not concerned. Basically, the only way I lose this is if I let him stack a ton of Prowess, and then I dex multiple times and allow him to go unblockable, and then mess up the evade, and he like crits on me, and I have seen characters just deleted by that before. So you don't want that to happen. But I think that House of X has plenty of tools to make sure that doesn't happen. Because you see me switching over into the lighter or the longer combos now, which will keep the prowess under control. We go ahead and let him go unblockable here so that we can bait out his special 2. But because of Power Focus 1, because we know that we can hit him a ton without sending him red, I'm just not terribly concerned about this node. It's very, very safe with House of X. You can use mutant power back boosts here, and you can spam the special 2. That works fine. You could spam the special 3 even with power back boosts. The reason I didn't here is because you really don't get that much power back if you don't crit, and Korg does have crit resistance in his kit. So it just didn't feel particularly worth it to me. I didn't think this war was in any danger of coming down to time, or I probably wouldn't have sent this counter. I might have even brought my Storm X over House of X if I were really worried about that. But he's just super, super safe for the fight. Gets it down 2.5 minutes. Not quick, but super safe. So then we're going to go ahead, throw on these pre-fights, mainly to control the start of the fight against Weapon X here, because this is just going to cut kinetic transference in half, right? And then we're going to head in with Nimrod. We're just following our normal plan of attack against Weapon X here. Footloose and kinetic transference are not really changing it. The goal is to get to 10, throw a special 1, so that we can go into Eradicate and control things, and then build to a special 2. Obviously, the fact that my dexes do not seem to be working at all right here was not part of the plan, but I was quite confident that there was enough time left on Footloose that maybe he would evade a little bit of it. But again, this is one of those places I've talked before about how Nimrod's specials being unblockable and Eradicate is itself a form of utility, and you saw it there with that special 1. Because yeah, he evaded the beginning, he blocked some of it because he was unstoppable, or at least he tried to, but the fact that the whole thing was unblockable allowed the end to connect, to knock him down, to build the space we needed, and then we got the fight back under control, built the special 2, and that was the end of it, because of course it was. So, could have gone cleaner, would have appreciated it going cleaner, but I tried to dex out of his way and just couldn't, so that is what it is. So we move on to this Mojo here. Basically, this season with Defiance, there needs to be some threat on the node itself that really soups Mojo up for him to be much of a danger, and there just isn't here. Like, if I somehow ate a special 2 or a special 3 entirely to the face, did not block it, was not able to evade it, and even then, Reed would probably survive because of how careful study works. Because if he gets hit by a special, then he just reduces the damage of it that much more. So I'm not going to test that. I'm going to bait the special 1s, but because we're immune to buffs, I can basically completely ignore the prompts. They're stacking up, not a big issue. We're just ramping, maintaining our ramp, relying on the fact that he's not going to have that many specials anyway. We're reversing willpower. We're hitting really, really hard, because that's always what happens as Reed starts rolling. Super, super easy fight. Could be done with almost any Defiance. Reed is maybe the safest, but yeah, not a dangerous one. So then we move over to this Kingpin. Now, I've talked before about how on this node, Nimrod is functionally immune to Disorient when fighting mutants. Kingpin is obviously not a mutant, and so we are not going to be parrying all the time. It's just not worth dealing with Hard Knock Life, even though we have some extra ability accuracy from having House of X on the team since Nimrod is metal. We're just not going to deal with that. Now, that does mean we're going to take some more block damage here. We could, if we wanted to get fancy, as long as he is not in overpower, we could parry his specials, right? It is not out of the realm of possibility to get 2 more armor ups off of his special 1 if you parry that one right there, and then the cane swipe. I did not feel like being nearly that fancy. Because we're winning the HP race, we're taking very little damage on block, even with only 1 or 2 armors. We just don't need to mess with that. Make sure that this special 2 is in Blitz Protocol so that we get the passive shocks. Obviously, because they're passive, Kingpin cannot shrug them and convert them into rage. It does a ton of damage. We just know we need to do that one more time. That's all there is to this fight. It was nice that the power drain stuck and helped us out a little bit there, sped up the fight because we had to bait fewer of these special ones, but just not the biggest deal in the world. So right here we know we're about to get to 10 charges. We just had to land a single hit. I could have ended the fight there and just thrown the special 2. Decided to play it slightly safer, cost ourselves 10 seconds, baiting out that last special 1, and then throw it. Because I knew at that point it was unblockable. As long as he threw the special 1, we were good from there. Heading on to Rhino, we go ahead and use another House of X pre-fight to allow us to parry even with Mighty Charge. Because Nimrod is large, Rhino should not go unblockable that often. If he does, not a big deal. It's Nimrod. He's going to have a ton of armors because we're going to be parrying a bunch in this fight. We can take a few hits. And this is Nimrod's last fight this war, so if we take a few hits, it's not even going to cost us loyalty. That's something that increasingly I find myself trying to explicitly think about since the changes to loyalty potions. Where is the last fight for every character on every team? Because that affects how good the matchup is. You know, you don't want to take a fight with Nebula, for instance, that you know will cost her like 2/3 of her health if she then has to do that 2 more times. You can do it, you will do it if that's what's necessary to win the war, but you try and avoid it. But for a fight like this, where we know this is Nimrod's last one of the war, we know he's very tanky, the fact that Rhino could go unblockable when we try to parry him just doesn't enter into the calculus at all because we know we can handle it. I'm also not really bothering going for intercepts here to remove protection, because look at how easily we're winning the HP race. Again, this is not a war that we thought was likely to come down to time, and so I'm just playing slow and steady, getting our passive damage in when we can. We made sure that we threw this special 2 at 10 charges so that we go into Eradicate. Does only half the damage it would if we had removed protection. I did kind of go for 2 intercepts there, but as I've explained before, the timing on using Unstoppable to get an intercept, you can't parry. You have to just block. And so that wasn't quite working out there. I don't know. It's fine. It would have been nice to remove the protection, but you also saw that even with the protection still up, our next special 2, even in just Blitz without getting to 10 charges for Eradicate, finish the fight super, super safe. So then we have this Mangog on 48. This node can get dangerous if things go on long enough for a bunch of buffs to expire. You start having to worry about those overlapping falter timers. Power efficiency means it's a lot of specials. But Reed just shuts down Mangog pretty effectively. He's going to have far fewer specials right out of the gate because we're going to be blunting his ability power rate for that passive power gain. We're going to be further blunting his combat power rate, which is already reduced in his kit with suppression. As soon as we get to a special 2, all of that just gets increased further. If we get to 2 special 2s, we'll be reversing his power gain. Like, power efficiency is not a problem because Mangog's just not going to have that much power to be efficient with. The main thing we want to look for is that vigilance. We know it will proc as we cross a bar of power, and we watch for it expiring. We just have to make sure that either our heavy or any hit of the special lands within that timer so that we don't get faltered. As long as that happens, there's not a whole lot to this node. We are going to watch his rage stacks, and if he gets up into the 8 or 9 area, we're going to be a little bit more careful. At that point is when I often don't bother with another special 2, and I make sure to have a special 1 handy for the stagger so he can't go unblockable and unstoppable. Or at least he can't for more than an instant. So you'll notice right here, I was kind of thinking about the Vigilance expiring, but then I was like, okay, as long as we throw the special 1, this ends it, we don't even need to think about that. And then we waited for Dot to clear that long shot, and we move on to this Sorcerer Supreme. I've taken this before without Defiance, and it's a fine fight, but Mystic Dispersion does make it significantly harder because that's just one more source of power gain to get boosted by the node and defeat Aspect of Evolution. It can get ugly. I have eaten more than 3 special 3s here before if she decides to be rude. But Reed's careful study helps with that, and that's why we're running an invulnerability here. Plus, with Defiance, we just don't worry about that. It also allows us to go ahead and fully dex the special 1. We could just block it and allow his evade chance to take over, but it's a pretty easy dex, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Is it right here? Notice we already have the careful study passive. Yeah, so I must have been a little bit early on that dex. I think that's the first time I've gotten hit by hers in a very long time. But anyway, lost 2 charges off of our invulnerability, so no more dexes, because just in case she decides to be rude and turtle to a special 2, we need to make sure we have that last invulnerability charge. We're going to be blocking all special 1s from here on out. They will do some damage on block, because Aspect of Evolution means she has extra attack, extra block penetration. All of those things get very annoying very quickly, but we're going to evade some of them. Reed has his resistances. We're reducing her attack by 75% thanks to careful study when she's throwing a special 1. No real danger here. So I do want to throw a heavy to refresh those, but notice I'm not going for another special 2, because at this point it makes more sense to just wait for the special 3, get that big Fury. Now that she's out of her armor phase, there's basically no chance this doesn't finish it. Basically a question of which hit in the special knocks her out, and it was the second out of like 6 or 7, right? So plenty of damage, and then that is my war. Boss went down after that, and we cleaned it up from there. So this was actually BG3's worst war of the season. We had 3 deaths, but I'm also in a very good mood about that being our worst war of the season. We are still at a perfect average over 5 wars of 2 deaths per war. We would like that to be lower, but I really cannot complain. Additionally, the Alliance overall, it really feels like it's hitting its stride. Our 3 deaths were more than half of the total. Both BG1 and BG2 got a 164 this war for a total of 5, and so we won pretty cleanly. These 2 wins now brings us up to being 3-2. We were in Masters because of our good attack bonuses, even at 1-2. But now we are in the top 10 going into this 6th war. And, you know, we're probably going to lose a couple ahead of us, but just feel really, really good about how the Alliance is performing right now. Feel great about where we are at this point in the season. And I'm looking forward to more. Hope y'all's seasons are going well. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, and take care.